Okay, directions are going to be really huge here to make sure we're on the same page. This one says find the area of the parallelogram. You have to know what height and side they're working with. So you have to decide which side is going to be the base. Notice for this parallelogram, they're kind of mean. They give you both sides. So which one's going to be the base? Now remember, you need a base that's got a height that's perpendicular to both bases. Well, notice which one does that. This one right here is perpendicular to the bottom one and the top one, which means these two sides, you can choose either one, has to be the base. So that's going to be 11 millimeters. That means this one right here is the height. Now, if I turn it around this way and this is the height, do you see how it's not parallel or perpendicular to any sides? So that's why it doesn't work. That wouldn't be a valid height when we work with it. So every time we do this, I want you guys to hear me and I want you to do it the right way. You will always write the formula. Okay, let me repeat myself. You will always write the formula down. And then we will always fill in right below it what we have and what we know. Because sometimes we'll know area, but we'll look for something else. So like here, it says find the area of this. Well, we decided the base was 11 millimeters. So I'm going to put right here, 11. The height we figured out was 18. So I multiply those together, and I get 198 now square millimeters. Right on. Now, why is it millimeters squared? What are we actually doing? We have squares that are millimeter on each side, so that's why we call it that. That's how you find the area of that one. Now look at the next one. It says find the base of a parallelogram in which the height is 56 yards and the area is 28 square yards. Basically, again, I'm going to call this a work backwards problem because I know the end result. I already know what the area is. So when I do this one, the work backwards problems, I start the same way. Area equals base times height. And then I plug in what I know, and it helps me solve for what's missing. The area I know is 28. The base, that's what we're looking for, so I'm just going to leave a B there for base. The height is 56 yards. So what do I have to do? I got to get the base by itself, so I divide both sides by 56. Well, fraction, and don't freak out, what does that reduce down to? 1/2. But I got to label very carefully. Now labeling is going to be critical. The base is 1/2 a yard. Bases aren't squared. Height's not squared. Area is squared. Now, those are very basic examples. Also, everyone listen to me on this. This is on the test. I don't want you to think anything else. This is on the test. This is in your homework. This is on the test. What this one is doing is actually using the fact that any side of a parallelogram can be a base, and you have two different heights. One height goes to different sides, so that's why it works this way. So it says find the value of h. Here is the height, okay? So that height, if you turn it over and it's perpendicular to, is to this side. So that 8 right here is actually this side because the opposite sides are a parallelogram. So that height and this would be our base together. The problem is I don't know the area, but actually I do. What I do know is that this side can be a base, and the 7 is the height for that. So that actually helps me solve for the area. So I'm going to do it this way. Area equals base times height. So the base is going to be 10, and the height is 70. So that's 70 square units, okay? Now, no matter what, that parallelogram does not change shape, right? So I'm going to use the fact then that this height, which I have in blue, goes to this base. It's different. This is the side, that's the height. If this is my base, that has to be the height. It switches for the side. So I still write my formula down, area equals base times height. I plug in what I know the area to be, 70. The base in this case is the blue one, so that is 8. I'm looking for the height. So I divide by 8. My height needs to be reduced. It's 70 over 8. 2 comes out of both. So that's 35 over 4. So my height is 35 over 4 units because it's a linear measurement, or you could even say 8 3/4 units. Either one I like. Okay, this is the hardest part of the whole lesson that we have today, so we have to get used to it. Let's try one more. Now, looking at this, here's you ask yourself the question. Here's h, that's the height I'm looking for. I'm going to go in blue. Move this around so you know it's perpendicular to the two sides, or the lines contain these sides. If that's the height, that has to be the base for it. But I first have to know what? First have to know the area. So I go over here and I go, okay, here's the other side. Well, that can be the base. And if that's the case, this one has to be the height for it. It switches because of different size. But the area of the parallelogram stays the same. So I go area equals base times height. So I got to solve for the area first. The base, 4.3 times the height, which is 4. Now here's where the rule changed. If I give you a decimal first, you may give me a decimal. Okay? So 4.3 times 4. 17.2. I said 2 point because I was going backwards. I was multiplying it in my head. So that would be in square units. Now I know the area. I can use that to solve for the missing height. Again, notice I'm writing my formula down. I get 17.2. My base this time is going to be the 5 right here, and that would be my height for it. So we're going to go 5 times the height. Go ahead and solve for the height. Now, cool thing is, remember, if I give you a decimal, you can give me a decimal. So your height is going to equal 3.44 units. So be really careful when you work with these. All right, last one on this page, which I just love. It's just to find the area of the parallelogram. What's the two pieces you need to know for the parallelogram? I need a base and a height. Which do you think would be the most logical base? You're right. This one right here, and let that be the base. Now, when they're vertical or horizontal, I told you to count these. How long is this? If it goes from a -6 to a 0, you're right, that's 6 units. Now, where's my height going to be? I want it to be perpendicular to both. I'm going to let this axis actually represent it. How high is it? Starting here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's your height. It's 8. I plug it in. My base is 6. My height is 8. That's going to be 48 square units. There's your area. Not hard. All right, now we're going to work with triangles.